Good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call the September 6th,
absolutely.
2023 McKinleyville Community Services District Board of Directors meeting to order. Is that everybody that's online, or is that just the people in the? And there's 3 people online too.
Who's online? I can't see.
That's what I'm asking for. Elaine, Jennifer, and Mike Medvey. Okay, who's the consultant? Mike is
Oh,
the
okay.
consultant. So anyway, could we have roll call, please, Joey?
Certainly. Director Bender,
Here.
Director Beitman,
Here.
Director Couch,
Here.
Director Mayo,
Present.
and President Orsini.
Present. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Dennis, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
My pleasure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move along to item A3, which is additions or changes to the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
We have no additions or changes to the agenda.
Thank you. So we'll move along to approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes. Thank you very much. So closed sessions, these are at any time during a regular meeting, we can adjourn to closed session to consider existing or anticipated litigation, liability, claims, real property, negotiations, license and or permit determinations, threats to security and public employee appointments, personal matters, and evaluations and discipline, labor negotiations, and or discuss with legal counsel matters within the attorney-client privilege. There are no closed sessions scheduled. So we'll go on to the B items, public hearing. These are items of quasi-judicial or legislative nature. Public comments relevant to these proceedings are invited. So this is conduct notice for the public hearing for the levy. Oh, that's, okay, so is that the correct title for it? So conduct public hearing for the levy of the assessment for the Measure B Maintenance Assessment District renewal for parks, open space, and recreation facilities. Consider adopting resolution 2023-18, amending and or approving the engineer's report for the Measure B Maintenance Assessment District for renewal of parks, open space, and recreational facilities and establish or increase assessments. Consider adopting resolution 2023-19, ordering the balloting of the levy and collection of the assessments within the Measure B Maintenance Assessment District, renewal for parks, open space, and or recreational facilities, establishment of the increase in assessments. And that will be presented by Leslie Frisbee, Parks and Rec Director.
In 1992, McKinleyville voters approved the Measure B Assessment District with a 20-year duration for the purpose of funding the development and maintenance of public recreation facilities, including the McKinleyville Activity Center, Azalea Hall, and Hiller Sports Site. The board authorized collection of the assessments in each year beginning in fiscal year 1992-1993. In 2011, a property owner protest ballot proceeding was conducted pursuant to the provisions of the California Constitution, Article 13D, for the levy of annual assessments for the Measure B Maintenance Assessment District renewal for parks, open space, and recreational facilities, which replaced and extended for another 20-year duration the assessments previously approved by voters in 1992. The proposed assessments were approved by the property owners, and the new assessments were levied on the Humboldt County tax rolls for fiscal year 2011-2012. At that time, there was no change to the annual property assessment amount, even though there had been several additions to the Parks and Recreation responsibilities since 1992. Additional responsibilities expanded to include ongoing maintenance of Azalea Hall and the Activity Center in 1995, the Humboldt County Library in 1996, the Humboldt County Law Enforcement Facility or the Sheriff's Substation in 1997, Hiller Sports Complex in 2003, and the McKinleyville Teen and Community Center in 2016. For the past several years, the district revenue collections have been insufficient to cover the operational and maintenance costs for these additional community assets maintained by the CSC, such that the district is carrying a negative fund balance. Therefore, the CSC has proposed an increased assessment and the addition of an annual inflationary adjustment to the maximum rate. Throughout 2022 and 2023, the district has been working with Wildan Financial Services to prepare an engineering report to establish the assessment required to cover these costs. In January of 2023, the district began reaching out to McKinleyville residents to collect feedback and input on parks and recreation priorities for the community. A survey of 300 property owners was conducted by Godby Research, and a less formal survey was distributed to the community at large in order to collect input on community priorities. Throughout June and July of this year, district staff conducted several presentations to community groups, service clubs, and business owners, providing information about the Parks and Recreation Department and collecting feedback from the community regarding the work of the Parks and Recreation Department. The top priorities identified by community residents and property owners through these outreach efforts include maintaining the facility housing the sheriff in McKinleyville, keeping park restrooms open and clean, keeping the senior center open and maintained, maintaining Azalea Hall, the library, our teen and community center and activity center, and maintaining playfields and playgrounds in all parks. After the following presentations, staff recommends the board adopt Resolution 2023-18 and 2023-19 by title only. And at this time, Wildan Services Mike, I'm going to not say his last name correctly, is going to walk us through the engineering report with detail and the next steps of the process.
All right, thanks a lot. It's Mike Medvey, by the way. All right, so just to get started, welcome honorable board members and members of the community. Appreciate you joining us. I'm going to be presenting the assessment engineer's perspective on the Measure B renewal and increase. Since this increase is going to impact each member of the community, the understanding of, not just what's going to be done, but also how the district is put together will be important because everyone will be voting on the measure. And you can go ahead and move to the next slide. So as it has since 1970, this assessment funds annual expenses associated with parks, open space, and recreational facilities. Primarily, we are analyzing an increase in the assessment and an increase in the scope of what it'll be used for. But I think it's worth mentioning that since this was established in 1970, it has been renewed and increased multiple times since. This most recent renewal is going to add additional services, and the assessment is going to need to be increased to cover those new services. And in addition, we will be implementing a cost of living adjustment to make sure that the assessment itself stays in line with costs going forward. As you know, inflation has been a bit of a concern over the last couple of years, and this is, the idea of a cost of living adjustment is something that many agencies and special districts have been considering recently. So go ahead, next slide. Our job as the assessment engineer is to create a special assessment that complies with Proposition 218 And the primary meaning of that is that the special assessment does not exceed the proportional special benefit associated with the costs of the services provided. So what we are told to do by the California Constitution is to separate, take a look at what's being provided and separate it into general and special benefits. And then we're only allowed to assess for the special benefits while the general benefits need to be funded with other revenues. The basic gist of Prop 218 is that the charge for each property must be less than or equal to the proportional special benefit received when the costs are allocated. So next slide, please. The special benefit needs to be a direct benefit conferred on real property. The parks, open space, and recreational facilities are available to serve all the properties within the district. And for the most part, and we made some adjustments regarding properties nearby, but for the most part, the CSD is pretty self-contained. So we do consider the boundaries of the CSD to be the boundaries of the assessment district, because that is the primary beneficiaries of these services. The services include, but not limited to, the maintenance of the sheriff's office facility, park restroom maintenance, senior center maintenance, maintenance of playfields and playgrounds in all parks, and maintenance of library, Azalea Hall, teen and community center, and activity center. Next slide, please. So our first job is to separate the general benefits from the special benefits. And the way that Prop 218 describes general benefit is essentially benefits to the public at large. The area outside the district boundaries is largely agricultural and includes a number of properties that are for timber production, gravel mining, and then there's also a lot of open space public areas where essentially no one resides. Nonetheless, and this would qualify as benefits that are not being assessed. Even though we really couldn't identify an appreciable number of properties outside of our district that would be benefiting, we did cap it at 10%. And this is a common technique in assessment engineering, is to pick a number below which we feel any reasonable person would think it was. So 10% is what we're allocating to properties that do benefit specially, but we're not going to be charging. Benefits to the public at large, and in the engineer's report, we go into a detailed discussion of this. So this is indirect and incidental benefits. We capped at 33%, and we do kind of go into this long discussion in the engineer's report if you want to check that out. So when you add those two things together, the 10% and the 33%, then we say to ourselves that general benefit couldn't be more than 43%, but at the same time, we're going to be safe again and say that 50% of the costs will be deducted from the budget and supported with other revenue sources by the district, with the remaining 50% being allocated to special benefit. So next slide, please. So now that we have separated out the special benefits, we need to allocate it proportionally. That is kind of the second prong of Prop 218. A very common mathematical way to do this is to establish the single-family residential unit as one equivalent benefit unit. So it's just a scale that we would use to measure all the other less common property types. In keeping with with standard accepted techniques with dealing with assessments in Prop 218, and also in keeping with the way the benefit formula has been calculated since the beginning, we assign 1 EBU per acre portion thereof to non-residential commercial property. And then the vacant property that is contingent on development still receives benefit, we're estimating at 1/3 of an EBU per parcel. So there is an acreage factor there. And again, the detailed explanation that I prefer not to bore everybody with is in the engineer's report if anyone wants to see the details of how these amounts were arrived at. Next slide, please. The full table of benefit units and their aggregate numbers can be seen here. You can see that we do have the one EBU per residential unit. You can also see below that the 1 EBU per acre for the first 2 acres, 0.5 EBUs for the next 2 acres, 0.25 EBUs for the next 2 acres, and so on for non-residential and commercial. That being because generally your parcels will have kind of a business there, and even though the benefit does increase as the size increases, it doesn't increase at the same rate for the business that resides there. Overall, we have 154 of those non-residential parcels with 215 total benefit units. The vacant parcels, again, 1/3 EBU per parcel. We have 325 of those with 107.25 EBUs. And then the public parcels, which we do assess, even though we don't directly receive revenue for them, are equal to 154.09 benefit units. So the total number of parcels that are within our district, the CSD boundaries, 5,844, and the total number of benefit units, which serves as the divisor for our special benefit budget, is 7,618.38. Next slide, please. So the calculation is simple in concept, I would say. The total benefit assessment divided by the total EBUs will get us the assessment rate per EBU. We've allocated $716,125 to the special benefit, and then we divide that by the EBUs to get the assessment rate per EBU of $94. The annual escalation factor that we're going to be adding is that it will increase by the same change as the Bay Area CPI, the annual change as calculated in the month of December. And even though I know that the Bay Area is pretty far away from McKinleyville, it's traditional to pick the index that is geographically closest, because the national CPI would kind of be the next level up, and that wouldn't be as applicable as the Bay Area CPI. It's a matter of choosing the best possible measurement rather than trying to find a perfect measurement. Next slide. So that's a summary of an overview of how the special benefit was arrived at, and also how the new assessment was calculated, and also how it's going to be increased each year. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions from the board members? No? Does staff have anything? No? So is there any benefit for? Okay. Okay, all right. So we'll go back to Leslie. I was going to give Russ a chance, but we'll go back to Leslie first.
Thanks. Joey, do you have my slides? I'm going to talk a little bit about the value of Parks and Recreation in the community in relation to what we provide as well. There are slides, but I can just read them to you.
Joey sharing screens.
Okay. All right. All right, there's the
There we
title
go. slide.
You can skip that one now, Joey. Thanks. So parks, trails, and open spaces in communities provide a lot of benefit to residents. It's been studied and documented. It has an impact on improving physical and mental health in community members, decreasing stress and blood pressure and risks of chronic illness, increasing positive cognitive function and sense of well-being, bringing economic vitality to communities, boosting property values, and providing entry-level jobs to youth in the community. And we believe McKinleyville Parks and Recreation contributes to all of these things in our community. Next slide. McKinleyville Parks and Recreation developments have always been community-driven. In 1988, Hiller Park was developed. In 1991, Pearson Park was developed. And as stated before, in 1992, property owners taxed themselves to be able to develop more recreation features. And with that, in 1995, Azalea Hall and the Activity Center was constructed. In 96, the library, Mad River Rotary funded and donated the construction for the law enforcement facility to bring law enforcement into the community. In 2003, Hiller Sports Site was completed. In 2015, we constructed an additional picnic pavilion at Pearson Park, and in 2016, we constructed the Keenan Community Center. Currently, we have a skate park under construction, a new park at school in Washington that will include a BMX track, and we will soon be acquiring 556 acres of community forest. These are all items that were brought to us from the community and part of our master plan for many years. We do a lot of community outreach to take input from the community. Next slide. During this process, as stated, we surveyed over 300 property owners via phone or email surveys. We also did community outreach at Pony Express Days and through community presentations and meetings with business owners and property owners to collect feedback from residents about priorities. Maintaining the facility housing the sheriffs was the top priority. Keeping park restrooms open and clean, keeping the senior center open and maintained, maintaining our community centers, the library, the activity center, Azalea Hall, and maintaining playgrounds and play fields were all in the top priorities listed. Next slide. A little background on the law enforcement facility. It was built in 1997, sorry. And MCSC provides all the janitorial and capital maintenance for the substation. In recent years, capital maintenance has been deferred due to limited funds and competing priorities. Additionally, the Humboldt County Sheriff Department does desire to expand the facility. However, there's a lack of funding for that, but the image shown, you can see the existing one in yellow and the desired expansion in red to bring better public safety to McKinleyville. Next slide. Our parks and facilities are maintained by a crew of 4 full-time maintenance workers with additional labor provided through partnerships with Northern Humboldt Employment Services and the Sheriff Work Alternative Program. The maintenance of McKinleyville's existing parks and facilities and open spaces utilizes over 11,000 labor hours annually. The labor hours are spent on over 160 acres of park, field, and open space landscaping, as well as approximately 30,000 square feet of facility space, including park restrooms. We're very conscientious in our maintenance. We don't use herbicides or pesticides in our facilities or our parks, which makes for really labor-intensive work. Next slide. The parks and facilities managed by and maintained by MCSC provide safe spaces for all of our youth programs like playgroup, youth sports, day camps, middle school dances, classes, and more, serving hundreds of community youth and families throughout the year. It is also the place where community events such as Pony Express Days, the Summer Music in the Park series, car shows, and other events can happen, bringing the community together. We're in the business of providing and facilitating recreational opportunities for the community. and these opportunities rely on well-maintained spaces and places. So I just wanted to provide a little information on the value that our parks and open spaces provide to the community. And if there's any questions.
Thank you. That was very informative. I would suggest that during the public hearing in the ballot process, it might be bring that back and do it again. I don't know if that was planned, but that we might have more people here that might get some benefit out of that. So I'll bring it back to the board. Any questions or comments from the board? So Russ, did you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, the only thing I would add is timing is critical.
Very good, thank you. So at this point in time, does staff have anything else to add? I'll open it up for public comment. Seeing no public comment online or here, we'll go ahead and I'll entertain. I'd like to add something. Does any board members have any comments or anything like that before I entertain a motion? So I would like to say something. I think that I would like to go on the record as saying that this is very needed. It's about time that this was adjusted. We've been collecting $30 per benefit unit since 1997 and 92. Thank you, 92. I would have to say that inflation's changed the value of that $30 considerably since then, and I think it's a good time to do it now. Our Parks and Rec Department do a stellar job with the resources that they have available. Our community has grown, and our requirements for our Parks Department to be able to provide for that has increased exponentially, and so I think it's just another good reason why this adjustment in the assessment is necessary at this point in time. So with that being said, and no other,
I will add something.
okay,
Yeah, I just wanted to say ditto on that. If I was going to say something, it would have been close to that, and I appreciate your comments and agree completely.
yeah, go ahead, Director Byman.
Thank you. I'm a relatively new person to McKinleyville. I moved here in 2000, so I've only been here for 23 years. That makes me a newcomer. This assessment predated my arrival by some number of years. My wife, however, did live in the community at that time, and she tells me of the original assessment and the tremendous pride that created in the community to be able to do the wonderful things that were done, to have a ball field, to have parks, to have other things that really made McKinleyville a community. And as I looked at what's happened since, I have seen growth in every aspect of parks and recreation. I've seen so much to be proud of as a resident of McKinleyville. And frankly, the assessment is absolutely minuscule by comparison. The benefits are tremendous, and $30 a year, and now $94 a year. By the way, our work truck is a Ford F-250 diesel 7.3 liter. Many of you know the machine. It's the year 2000. I wheeled into the gas station with about a little less than a quarter of a tank and filled the tank. $167 to fill that 2/3 of that tank. And I think of the benefit of $167 worth of diesel, which isn't very much in comparison with a $94 annual assessment.
You had to push that truck home that
Just about. And, yeah, and so it's just, the tremendous amount of community pride that has resulted from this over the years stands out so strongly. And I guess I'm just one proud citizen of McKinleyville as a consequence of that. That's about all I want to say.
Thank you. Either one of you guys got anything else to say?
Well, I want to say, I totally support it. If you look at the $30 to $94, the percentage increase, that's like shocking, but it's really still less than $100 a year. And if you do anything with recreation, I think you get your benefit out of that. And it's especially good, that the people who'll be impacted will be the people voting on it. So, I think it's a good democratic way, the way we're putting this forward. We're not sneaking it up on anybody. Oh, my thoughts.
Thank you. Scott?
Okay, the cumulative impact on this is very, very small. What is it? $5.33 per month. That's less than a lot of us spend on one cup of coffee over at Starbucks over here. And I know this. Cumulatively, it makes a huge difference, And if you're familiar with the Parks and Rec budget, I'm somewhat familiar, but that figure of over $700,000 a year, that's going to make a big difference in the way that our facilities are maintained. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the fruits of this, frankly. Because when we first started this with the $30 a year assessment in the mid-1990s, or the early 1990s, 1992, there were a lot less things to maintain. And we've simply outgrown that $30 a year. And what other product have we ever had that didn't increase in cost since 1992? I can't name a single one. Like ground beef's gone from 89 cents a pound. Now we're thrilled that we can get it for $2.99.
Yeah, if I got hamburger for $2.99, I'd be skeptical about what's in it. Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? So at this time, thank you for your board for your thoughtful comments on this, and I'll entertain a motion at this point in time.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt resolution 2023-18 and 2023-19 by title only.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Binder,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes. Well, another hurdle.
Yep.
Thanks, Mike, for coming and giving us that great recap on the engineer's report. We very much appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Happy to help out.
Yep, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Russ. So just a little bit on next steps. So basically, the board has authorized and accepted that report, as well as mailing out ballots. So ballots will go out the end of this week to all the property owners in McKinleyville. And you also authorize a notice of public hearing. So at our November 1st board meeting is going to be the public hearing. And all the ballots will be, you can send in your ballot anytime. They'll sit unopened at the district office. At the end of the public hearing on November 1st, we'll open all the ballots and count them and hopefully have 50% plus one to pass it. So that's just kind of what's coming next. So look for a ballot in your mailbox and please check yes and please return it.
Yes, and follow the directions too, because I believe you have to sign it, and there's several things you have to do. So make sure that when you, if you're going to vote yes, if you're going to vote no, don't worry about the directions, but if you're going to vote yes, please follow the directions. I had to say it. So we'll move along to I believe public comment.
Greg,
Yes,
you
sir.
have to formally close the public hearing?
No, there was no public hearing necessary for this one.
Okay.
No, I didn't, yeah. So, public comment and written communications. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject not identified on this agenda, but within the jurisdiction of McKinleyville Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action will be referred to staff for report of action at a subsequent committee or board meeting as a matter of the agenda, and an opportunity will be given to address the board when the matter is considered. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Letters should be used for complex issues. Is there any public comment? Thank you, Charlie.
It's on. So as you guys can see, the skate park construction piece is completed. We are in the process of working with Leslie and Pat to get the construction fence down, get signs up, throw a pad up around the telephone pole. And the construction fence, as you can see, is not preventing people from entering the skate park. Something to keep in mind for your Parks and Rec guys is if you see people in there that are under 18, riding bikes without a helmet, they're breaking the law. Just so you know, the law for anyone under 18 on a bicycle is to wear a helmet. So, and I will be pushing that myself. That law does not affect skateboards or anything, but my recommendation, and that is Leslie will share in her recreation report, that we have a sign that we'll be putting up that recommends proper safety gear, helmets, you only have one brain, body armor, pads. It's a recommendation that allows you guys not to have to try to enforce, and you're still covered from your insurance. Everything is on track, on budget, and I'm working very closely with Pat and Leslie to make sure that everything moves forward. We are setting up to do a big grand opening fundraiser that you're all invited to on, looks like at this point, October 7th, which will be a Saturday. We'll have bands and inviting people like the Headwaters Group, Coast Central, some of our larger donors to be recognized during this event. And we will make sure like Mad River Union and all of them are involved at the same time. Anyway, we are very excited to see the skate park up and going. The guys that came in, Primary Concrete, did a fantastic job above and beyond even my expectations for the work they completed on time. They were out of here on Monday, which was their schedule. And I'm very pleased with the work they have done. And you'll see me out there on a regular basis, keeping our grass watered and keeping that going. We will keep the orange fence off to try to keep people off of that area where the grass is growing right now. So that area does not, we're trying to prevent mud from getting into the park and into the parking lot. So we are going to put up boundaries and benches, and I'm going to let these guys share more about that on this area where we moved out to the parking area, just so you know, so boards won't be flying out there. So we have stuff that we're actually ordering, and we have finances to actually take care of that stuff. So that's me.
Hey, Charlie, could you repeat what did you say was going to happen and what date was that?
October 7th is when we're trying to do our grand opening, our not grand opening, but it's going to be a skate contest, grand opening
Soft
skate
opening.
contest with bands and a lot of public and vendors. And we're actually going for sponsorships. It's also going to be a fundraiser because we still have 16,000 square feet of skate park to build. It's only 4,000 square feet right now. So it will probably start around, we'll probably start showing up around 10 and go till around 4 o'clock. Oh, you're talking about Maui. Maui was very emotional. I went with Foursquare Disaster Relief. I'm a disaster relief response for helping people. And our organization was allowed into the parks with the Hawaiian people that all the government agencies were not being allowed into. I talked lots of story, heard lots of story, prayed for a lot of people, made some great relationships while I was over there, and there's potential for me going back and helping with some of the recovery stuff down the road.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
I just want to sort of echo what Charlie was saying about our plans for the grand opening will be October 7th. We've got, bands lined up, people dedicating their time to barbecue. So it will be an all-day event, and we'd hope to see all of you there because, once again, I really want to thank Leslie for letting us build this park inside one of your, in your jurisdiction. And thank you again, MCSD, for the land. The parcel is, the biggest value to this whole project. But I hope you guys all see the benefit as, people are eager to get out there and skate it. And it's hard to keep skaters out with a fence. And our goal is to get the fences removed as soon as possible, but protect the parking lot area. Like, we also really appreciate that you allowed us to expand into, the parking section outside of our original layout. And because that added a lot for us as skaters. Like, that extra space doesn't seem like a lot, but it does. It allows for people to skate flat while other people are skating the transition stuff. And then you can have multiple people skating at the same time, which is huge. And you'll see if you go out there and on this, like this weekend, if it's open, there will be people from all ages, tiny kids up to people, Charlie and my age, who are, my age, Charlie's age. All ages are welcome there. And I've heard from the community since this thing has gone up, like, so many people are, excited about its opening. And so we're hoping to get it open soon so people can start, using the park before October 7th so that they can get comfortable skating it, so that when we actually have the grand opening and a contest, people aren't just learning how to skate the park, because it takes some adjustment to get used to a new features and stuff. And this, from what I've been hearing from the community, is this park is more skatable than Arcata and Eureka. It's more accessible because the builders, Primary Concrete, they're skaters, and they did a great job with the layout, the design. They nailed it, and we couldn't be happier with how it's come out. And we look forward to continuing on with phase 2 and potentially 3. See, and just hope to see you all there on October 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Very good. Nobody online for public comment. Okay, so we'll move along to.
I had something I was going to add. So if you guys aren't going to stay, was down at the CSDA conference. What was the keynote speaker's name from the guy who founded Pixar? Anyway,
L-U-N, Lund?
I was chatting with him afterwards, and I was wearing my McKinleyville skate park t-shirt, and he looks at it and goes, "McKinleyville? My son is living in McKinleyville and going to HSU. So we might want to hit him up for a donation."
I'm sure our staff could do the same thing.
Yeah, if you guys could get me the information, this information, and I am going to stay through Leslie's presentation because I can send her. Okay, so
Yeah.
in case you have questions, we'll go to that.
I didn't ask if his son was a skater. That was we'll just assume. Oh, yeah.
So we're going to move along now to the consent calendar. consent calendar items are expected to be routine and non-controversial to be acted upon by the Board of Directors at one time without discussion. If any member of staff, if any board member, staff member, or interested person in the public, that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed so that it may be accepted upon separately. At this point in time, does anybody in the board want to pull any of the consent calendar items? Board, staff?
Well, either you or I think had agreed we're going to pull item D5.
Yeah, yes, we would like to pull item D5. So if there are no other items to be pulled other than D5, I would entertain a motion for D1 through D4. Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Could you please call the roll, Joey?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman, Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo, and President Orsini.
Yes. Okay, so. Okay, D5, consider support of ACA 13 voting thresholds and approve board president and general manager to sign letter of support. And this will be presented by General Manager Kaspari.
Thank you, President Orsini. And I'm sure you folks that went down to the CSDA conference heard quite a bit about this, but Assembly Member Christopher Ward has amended Assembly Constitutional Amendment 13 related to ballot measures. There is significant interplay between ACA 13 and Initiative 21-0042A1. In short, successful passage of ACA 13 is expected to protect public agencies from the potentially disastrous effects of the initiative 21-0042A1. The district has previously submitted letters of opposition to that initiative. ACA 13, if passed by 2/3 of the California legislature, would propose to voters the following. If an initiative constitutional amendment includes provisions that impose vote thresholds greater than a simple majority of votes cast, then that initiative constitutional amendment must receive a percentage of votes in support equal to those increased vote thresholds. Excuse me. I.e., if an initiative constitutional amendment includes a provision that would impose a supermajority voter approval threshold, then the initiative would be required to gain the approval of the same supermajority. Initiative 21-0042A1 imposes thresholds required the approval of 2/3 of voters in various places throughout the text of the measure. The successful passage of ACA 13 would mean that Initiative 21-0042A1 would be required to garner the approval of 2/3 of voters in order for the initiative constitutional amendment to be considered approved. If you will recall, Initiative 21-0042A1, basically for any new fee or tax that any agency wishes to pass. So like when we do a new rate fee, it will require 2/3 vote to pass it. Currently, Prop 218 requires 50% plus one to pass. So every one of our rate measures, when we had to increase or change our rates, would require 2/3 vote. So that's why we came and you voted to submit a letter in opposition to that, and CSDA and Aqua are also in opposition to that. So ACA 13 basically says, okay, in order to pass that initiative, you need to get 2/3 votes to say yes on that initiative. So with that, staff recommends that the board review the information provided, take public comment, and consider support for ACA 13, and approve the board president and general manager to sign a letter of support.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? Do you have any comments or questions? No? Okay. Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to staff for getting this done. This kind of came rolling in pretty quick and you guys were able to turn this around and get it on the agenda. So thank you very much for that. So far, it's in the status of this is, it's in the Senate right now. Our senator is very much in support of this. We haven't gotten a commitment from our assemblyman yet, but he hasn't had time to review it because it's not in committee yet in the assembly. So, but I think that this is, if this passes, not only will the requirement for 2/3 vote make it very difficult, it'll basically make any Prop 213 action that you do undefensible because of the way that Initiative 21-0042A1 is written. And that would make it very hard for us to do business if we can't pass a defensible Prop 213 bill. Anyway, with that, I'll open it up for public comment. No public comment. I'll bring it back to the board for a motion. Okay, thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Joey, could you please call roll?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo, and President Orsini.
Yes.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Very good, thank you. So we'll move along now to item E1. Consider attendance to the Association of California Water Agencies 2023 Fall Conference and Exhibition in Indian Wells, California on November 23rd, 2013. And this is an action item, and it's on page 131, and it will be presented by Joey Blaine, Board Secretary.
Thank you, President Orsini. This year's Aqua 2023 Fall Conference and Exhibition will be held in Indian Wells, California from November 28th through 30th, 2023. Regular registration and cancellation deadline is November 17th, 2023. Attachment 1 is the preliminary agenda for the conference. Attachment 2 is the registration, meals, and hotel pricing sheet. Regular registration deadline is November 17th, 2023. The cost for full conference registration and meals package is $815. Meals not provided by the conference for 4 days will be $208.50 per person. Special hotel rate based on availability is $209 per night. 3 nights of lodging would be $627 per attendee before taxes and fees. United airfare at today's rate is approximately $553 per attendee. Transportation to and from the airport is around $50. An approximate total cost for travel, meals, and attendance to the conference is $2,203.50 per attendee. The remaining board travel budget for fiscal year 23-24 is approximately $14,000. To maintain the lowest possible costs, if approved, the board is asked to notify the board secretary no later than September 20th, 2023 of their desire to attend. Staff recommends that the board review the information provided for the Aqua 2023 Fall Conference and Exhibition being held in Indian Wells, California, and consider authorization for interested board members to attend.
So anyway, thank you, Joey. At this time, I'll bring it back to the board. Do you have any questions or comments on this?
I just wanted to say subject, I move to approve this item subject to board comment, of course, but that I am obliged to go as a Aqua officer. And so I will be attending.
Okay, any other comments, questions, or commitments to go?
Is this the same place that we met last time?
This is,
Same.
Indian Wells near Palm Springs?
yeah, it's right by Palm
I was
Springs.
just wondering if it's the same. Right. Right.
CSDA had the conference. I don't know if it was at the same hotel, but
That's what I was.
so anyway, I would propose that, to get the best deals that we have a commitment from the board at least 30 days before the airfares will be used so that we can get the best price on the ticket. So I would, while I don't have the authority to do it, I would encourage the board members to have their commitment to go well in advance so that we're not waiting until the last minute to get tickets, though I guess the deadline for registration and cancellation is the 17th of November, so that gives us a little bit of time.
But they go just instantly, you know, the minute it's open, boom.
Yeah, so, and the conference is on
The 28th through the 30th.
the 20th through the 30th, so,
And the next day is the opening of the National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas, so you could kind of do the little extended
So-
vacation.
Dennis driving?
so I would propose that before the 28th of this month, you've made your commitment, or maybe foot the bill for yourself, or split the difference for the cost of the plane fare. Do you guys understand
Sounds
what I'm
good.
saying?
Yeah.
That if you're gonna go, commit to it soon enough that Joey can make your plane fare in advance of the 30 days, at least in 30 days advance of when you fly. That way we can get the best price we can on the tickets.
And what he's saying is that if you do it at the last minute, you'll pay the difference of the price of the ticket.
I'll commit to going right now then. As we've kind of talked about.
Okay, so we have any other comments or questions? And so anyway, so the rest of us will commit to, I'm most likely am not going to go, but I'll let you know within the next few days. I think I've got other stuff going on at that point in time. So we have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Could you please call the roll, Joey?
Director Bender,
Yes.
Director Beitman,
Yes.
Director Couch,
Yes.
Director Mayo,
Yes.
and President Orsini.
Yes. Thank you. So now we'll move along to reports. We have active committee reports, Parks and Recreation Committee. Bender?
The Parks and Recreation Committee. Okay. I was in attendance at that meeting via Zoom. And I'd just like to say that Kirsten did a very good job leading the meeting in Leslie's absence. And I have nothing further to add to her report.
Thank you. So local area fund? Was there any meeting? You're the alternate for that. Were you able to make contact and get on the mailing list for the area fund?
Oh, I was, and they aren't meeting until next year. However, I did receive a firm commitment from Mr. John Colstead that whomever is appointed at the beginning of the year will be placed on the mailing list and will be included in any and all communications and meetings.
Very good, thank you. Redwood Region Economic Development Commission, Director Beitman?
The commission board met on August 28th, a few days ago. The agenda included approval of the employment contract for their executive director, which was unanimously approved. They had a presentation from one of the beneficiaries of the lending of REDEC, executive director of the Humboldt Family Services Center. It was a very interesting presentation. The Humboldt Family Service Center suffered I'll put it this way, a double tragedy. One is that just through an error on the part of the consultant, they lost their 501c3 tax exempt status. And about the same time, they had to make some significant changes for COVID, which left them basically with their two primary funding streams, their donations and their revenues that they receive from various state agency and local and so on their programs where people attend. They lost that revenue stream and they virtually have nothing. And they, REDAC provided them a bridge line of credit to get them through that, and they have successfully come through, and they're very grateful for the support of REDAC in that process. The other thing that was once again on the agenda, and will probably continue to be on the agenda, is the support of the organization called Core Hub. Core Hub is appears to be an one individual's work to put together some sort of a consortium of agencies in Humboldt County to influence the economic direction of the Humboldt Bay offshore wind project. This project is presumably going to be about $750 million. It will be done by an external organization, which has apparently obtained the lease. Two major things that are coming are to, in the former pulp mill site, is to create a deep water holding place for the turbines, which are to be floated 20 miles offshore and anchored in deep water. There's a significant question as to whether there will be, what there will be in the way of economic benefit for Humboldt County. On one hand, we hear that this will become a sustainable industry over a long period of time, will provide a significant economic input to the county. On the other hand, we hear that the contractor and others involved are not from Humboldt County, and they're unlikely to create anything that's going to be of direct benefit to Humboldt County. And the idea of Core Hub is to influence that in some way or another. The board of REDAC voted to approve the support of Core Hub. I, as one of several, abstained in that vote and did not vote in favor of it. And there, in this last meeting, I explained my abstain vote to the other members of the board, in that the McKinleyville Community Services District has a specific set of services to offer and a specific recipient of the benefit of those services, and to engage in some way or another in an undefined way of entering into what may be a large and very expensive undertaking. They could not see McKinleyville Community Services District becoming a part of that. I don't know how far it's going to go, and I don't know how much more of this we're going to see, but apparently we're going to see a lot of it, and it's going to be huge. So that's pretty much the report from REDAC. Those who are interested in the project, there was a newspaper article published a month ago that pretty well detailed the project and Core Hub, and the lady who is organizing Core Hub was quoted in that. And so if anybody's interested in it, I'd be happy to provide a link to the website where that report is published. So that's REDEC, the usual loan portfolio report and so on. Nothing particularly noteworthy in that.
Thank you, Director Brightman. Director Mayo, did you have a question? for-
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to tell Jim, thanks for having an overall view of looking at this and not necessarily just jumping on a bandwagon. But also I wanted to say if anybody's interested, anybody listening, or that Rob Holman has quite an in-depth presentation on Access Humboldt about all the nuts and bolts of what's going on with the Harbor District's aspect of this. And anyway, that's informational. Yeah.
Thank you. McKinleyville Senior Center Board Liaison, Director Bender.
That would be me. I'm Scott Bender, the Executive Director of the MSC. We're doing great. We have some very, very vitalized volunteers. We're sprucing up the center for a planned open house coming in November. And we're doing some redesign work in there. Our programming is going great. Last Friday, we were running 6 tables for Pinochle when we used to run 4. Cribbage is doing great, even if Director Mayo hadn't showed back up. Joyce misses you.
I miss Joyce too.
My wife is playing Pinochle now. And we're starting up our quilting and crocheting group on Mondays from 10:30 to 12:30 each and every Monday. Longtime volunteer Rosemary Ferret is back in action. And she's once again leading that group after refusing to for a little while. She wants to get back involved, so that's great. And we added an additional sail instructor, so now we have the capacity to host 40 participants rather than 20, because by the agreement with the national program, it's 1 instructor per 20 participants. And she was just here in the audience, Mary Zinselmeer. And gosh, just a whole lot of stuff. People keep coming in and borrowing durable medical equipment, walkers, and things, and bringing them back, and that's providing a great
Or
service.
leaving them in pastures.
Huh?
Or leaving them in pastures.
Or leaving them in pastures, or abandoning them in the hallway. I'm sure that district staff is getting a little tired of that. But anyway, that's a great deal of what we do. And it's a one-of-a-kind program, and people will come from Eureka and Humboldt Senior Resource Center, Area 1, and everybody say, if you want to borrow something, come to McKinleyville Senior Center. They will have it. We do.
Tell them about your new equipment that you got.
Oh, the new equipment that we got. Last spring, I was able to get in on a Department of Health and Human Services grant that was actually doled out by the Aging Americans Act. It's a federal thing, but administered by the state. And I was able to get $7,000 worth of technology equipment in order to
Congratulations.
to fully equip our computer lab. I got a new color laser printer for my office so that we can produce color flyers and make our outreach, our in-print outreach more attractive and readable. And we got new speakers for the SAIL program to use for their music that will fill this room with sound almost as good as these Yamaha speakers. Got a brand new laptop, a wide angle webcam, because the SAIL program is done hybrid. There's a hybrid component to it that Area 1 pushes out through their stuff. And and several other things. And we're also going to be getting ergonomic chairs and a new U-shaped custom-made computer lab table in the main senior room. And that's the last item on the list. But everything they got us was top-notch, and extended warranties, extra toner cartridges for the printers. And yeah, we really got lucky there. Is there anything else I missed, Dennis?
No, you did good. The only thing is that we really did get lucky. We assigned the right person to the task.
Thanks. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Audit and Finance Committee, Orsini and Beitman. Well, we had some strategic meetings for the Measure B. And I only was able to attend one of those, but Director Beitman attended all of them, I believe. And so would you like to take this report?
I can make it very, very brief. We, with the help of the staff, and I think primarily with the input of the staff, we moved very quickly through the process of strategic planning and came down to the end, in which we were attempting to decide between several possibilities of the mission statement and the vision statement. And we came up with very succinct, both mission statement and vision statement that everybody agreed upon and said that they liked it and said that it really expressed what we all believe in. It's
Hey,
not
Jim?
significantly changed from what.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was talking about the Audit and Finance Committee about the Measure B stuff, not
okay.
the strategic planning stuff.
I'm sorry, I went to strategic planning, okay.
But
That's
that was,
okay. That's
but
okay.
that
That
was a
was
good
good.
synopsis of that.
Yeah, okay. Measure B, I think most of what we went through with Measure B was summarized by Leslie's slideshow tonight that we saw. And we commented on it and basically are moving forward with the process of taking out the ballot on Measure B. And we saw that in what we voted on earlier this evening. And that was the output of that work. And again, it was well done, succinct, well organized, and much credit goes to Leslie and her and the rest of her staff who worked on it and put it together in just a very, very clear, very succinct manner. And so I want to say thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'd just like to echo what Director Beitman had to say about the process and witnessing what staff has done and put together. So I would like to thank our staff very much for the hard work that you put together on this and in making this possible, finding a way to make it the most palatable that we possibly can, and in giving us the best potential for this seeing the light of day. So thank you very much to staff. Oh, and so then we move on to Employee Negotiation Committee, Coach and Mayo. Good. So McKinleyville Municipal Advisory Committee. And we met on August 23rd. And we basically are in the process right now of moving forward with giving the planning department staff the go-ahead to approve the preliminary draft of the ordinance so that it can be utilized to do the CEQA documentation. And we had a presentation on the wetland delineations The differences between a single parameter and a 3-parameter wetland was done by Misha Schwartz from GHD, did a great job. There was very limited amount of gadfly-ism going on during the meeting. And the people that had concerns were heard, and those concerns were noted. And we move forward with that, and we'll be dealing with the rest of it coming up on now, how did we, what was it? The special meeting that we're gonna do the rest of that, or at the? Okay, so we have a special meeting coming up next Wednesday, and it's gonna be held here, I believe. It'll be held here. So if you have any public comment on the rest of the Q-zone, Q-zone ordinance, it will be held here at 6 o'clock on whatever date next Wednesday is, the 13th, Wednesday the 13th, and it will be focusing mainly on the road, the traffic diet, and also parking. And I think that, and there was a few other pieces to it too that we still have to get through. So anyway, if you have any comments on what's being proposed for Central Avenue, I would highly recommend that you attend. As I always say, if you're not at the table, you'll be on the menu. And I think that it's important that if you have any of your constituents that have voiced concern about anything in the Q zone, that you tell them that they should probably show up in person at the meeting, because complaining to the board of directors of McKinleyville Community Services District only has so much weight when it comes to dealing with the McMac. Did I miss anything?
Nope. Good job.
Thank you. Ad hoc committee for community forest.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
When is that meeting?
It's here Wednesday, 13 September,
Next
6
Wednesday,
o'clock.
right?
Yeah, a week from
Next
tonight,
Wednesday, yeah.
in the spot we're at right now,
Okay. Thank you.
at 6. Ad hoc committee, community forest. We did not meet. Very good. So legislative and regulatory reports, we covered the one that was the most pertinent to me in the consent calendar. That's really all I had. Anything else? Dennis, did you have anything in that?
No, nothing. I mean, there's always a lot of stuff, but that's the big one right now.
Yes, with what goes on in Sacramento, there's always something. So at this point in time, we'll move on to staff reports. Finance Administration Department, Nicole Alvarado.
The only thing I had to add to my report is that we did receive the fund statements from Humboldt County for fiscal year 23. So we did get those, and I did enter those into our books and reconciled them. They are caught up through the end of fiscal year 22. So we still have to estimate fiscal year 23. And they've told me they're going to work on fiscal year 23 this year. So we're going to go ahead and estimate again just for this year. But then after this year, they should be caught up. They've done a tremendous amount of work over the past year. So I'm really appreciative to their staff.
Yeah. Never mind. I just remembered where I left my walker. Sorry.
Okay.
Shit. Sorry.
And then the only other thing I wanted to add is that per the directive of this board, staff was instructed to move a majority of our funds out of Humboldt County Trust and into the California Class Pooled Investment. I have submitted that paperwork to the Auditor Controller's office, and they've told me that the check will be ready Friday. So we're going to go pick that up and get it deposited and get the funds moved over to California Class.
Awesome. Start collecting some real interest. Very good. And let's see, next on it is Operations Department. James Henry? Oh, I'm sorry. Director Brightman, did you have any comment?
I just wanted to make one comment, and it's to thank Nicole for, not this time, but for the work that was done earlier on other post-employment benefits. If you saw, I think it's the North Coast Journal, he had an article about how the costs of post-employment benefits are basically taking away the ability of entity after entity after entity in Humboldt County to deliver their services. And thank you very much for your work, Nicole, and the work that was done to make sure that MCSD is not put into that horrible predicament. And I want to thank President Orsini as well for working on that and making sure. So that's it.
Thank you. We'll move along now. And James?
I'm not telling. I'll tell you later.
Parks and Recreation Department, Leslie Frisbee. It might be appropriate to wait until
The meeting's over.
the meeting's over for that one.
Are we done with shenanigans? I just want to add so the work on Measure B, a lot of the materials, it's, thank you for the kudos, but it's not me. I know a lot of the credit goes to Kirsten Mesmer, who created a lot of the print materials, and Pat has been busting his ass as well. So it's all of us in this together, and I just wanted to acknowledge everybody's work. And for the skate park, Charlie, Charlie, you covered almost everything that you gave me. So I don't have much to add to what Charlie's already stated. And he and I they're working on getting a sign. I can go through the skate park etiquette that is being proposed, which is have fun, respect each other, be safe, recommended safety gears, a helmet, you only have one brain, body armor, elbow, knee, and wrist guards. Be discreet, it's a family park, show care with words and substances, even though substances are not allowed in our park. We trust you understand what we mean. Take care of the park. This is 25% of the future skate park. If you mess it up, it'll hinder remaining construction. So that will be a temporary sign until the rest of the park gets built, when we make a permanent sign that says most of all of those things, but without the 25% part.
So the only thing I have to add to that would be in the part about the head protection for the teenage boys. Even though they haven't started using their brains yet, they'll probably need them someday, so they should protect them.
Yeah, and it doesn't fully develop till they're like 30 years old.
Yeah.
You can add that.
Yeah, something like that. Some of us a little later than that.
25.
I was probably 35 before I actually started using mine.
I mean, this brain science is between like 26 and 29. Just saying. No, that's it. I'm done now.
Well, I have something to add too, or maybe Leslie can address it. We now have an opening on the Park and Rec
That's
Committee.
right. We do have an opening on the Park and Rec
Oh.
Committee.
Are we going to be advertising that?
Yes, I just haven't.
Very good.
It's been busy.
Yeah, that's good.
So just real quick, part of that list is what I teach at skate camp. So those are what we do at skate camp. We're going to move into skate camps pretty quickly with this section of there's high potential revenue coming into MCSD through skate camps starting this winter. We have a good winter break with the sun, and we have the pavilion that's still available. When other skate camps are shutting down, we can still run skate camp in the pavilion like we have been if it rains, so we can continue our skate camp without shutting it down. And so we'll be working closely with Leslie, and it opens the door up for skate camp all summer long. So that was one of the things that I didn't mention when I was up here, but that is something that is a huge plus of having this skate park here now, so.
Great, and I think the way it's set up, it'll drain fast too, so it's not like some of the other ones that catch water, so that'll be great. Thank you. We're done, Leslie. Okay, we'll move along to the general manager's report.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a few things I want to update the board on Central Avenue. They are finishing up paving and they should be done paving by the end of this week. They have the entire new water line in and connected everywhere. The sewer, they have line, the liner forgot a couple things. So he has to come back and finish up lining some of the laterals, but they're working on the manholes this week and lining all the manholes. And they should be done with that by the end of the week as well. They'll have to come back and test those. There was a bushing that kept failing on the new connections off the new line for the services. So GRS is going to come back and rebuild all of those services, the ones that haven't failed that they've already had to rebuild.
Was that the bushing that we had to get a different bushing? What was the thing that failed that was a failure and we had to get a completely different?
So yeah, there's a Schedule 80 bushing
Yeah.
that has been failing on them. So we went to a solid Schedule 40.
And that's not this that you're talking about right now?
That is what I'm
Or it
talking
is,
about. yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
I thought, yeah, okay.
So they have another week or so of work on that. The final completion date is supposed to be September 23rd, and they still think they're going to meet that. But the traffic impact should really drop off after this week. 4.5 million gallon tank. There's even a bigger hole up there now. They are looking for places to put the dirt. It's spread out all over up there. So if you want some dirt, go up there and throw it in the back of your truck and haul it away. I'm kidding. For anyone who's listening, don't do that. But they are they should be working on the foundation here the end of this month. And then DN Tank is going to be coming in early October and start constructing the tank.
So they're almost done with subgrade?
What?
They're almost done with subgrade?
Yeah, so they should finish down to the base here the middle of this month, and then putting down base and putting in the ring foundation, et cetera, at the end of this month, early October.
Or the excavations, and we'll do subgrade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, just a curiosity, that bushing failure, now does the manufacturer cover the cost of all of that or not? Or how's that? Or is that a future litigation?
Well, GRS has gone back to them. They, of course, are equivocating that it's not their product, but we'll see. So GRS is going after them for that.
How many of them? Everyone?
Well, they had, I don't know how, James, do you know how many actually failed on them? Probably 8.
But did I hear correctly though that they're going to replace them all?
Yeah.
So how many is that?
But there, yeah, there are service connections on that line, 30 more.
So they're they're 2-inch? Salt wall? So they're on they're on the manifolds.
Okay.
We're letting GRS pursue it
Yeah.
with the
Okay.
manufacturer.
Yeah.
Microgrid 2, we're still, like I think I mentioned, we got PG&E's go ahead, but they requested a special meter cabinet that won't be delivered or won't be manufactured until middle of October. But hopefully come middle of October, we'll get that installed and then finalize the microgrid. I did have an interview with a couple of folks from EPA, Department of Water, that walked through that they had heard about the microgrid project through CSDA. And so they called up and asked a bunch of questions and asked if we would do a presentation at a webinar that they're hosting September something or other. So agreed to do that. So we're going to be doing that for them. And I think that's it for my report.
Thank you.
Real quick, what's the status of the battery in the microgrid? Has PG&E approved or?
Yep, so they finally approved the design of the battery. The batteries have been sitting there for
nearly
most of the
a year.
year.
Yeah.
And so they're all ready to go, and PG&E finally approved the design and the permitting of those. So that's the last piece that we're waiting on. They require this new meter panel be installed as part of the design. So as soon as that shows up and we get it installed, then we're done, and PG&E will come out, and we can flip the switch on the batteries. And PG&E will come out and say, yeah, looks good.
Cool.
Okay, well, are we going to have some kind of celebration?
Yep, we were hoping to have a ribbon cutting before the rain started. I don't know that we'll make that, but yes.
We can do a combination with Charlie's camp in the covered skate park area.
At this point, I'll be so overjoyed to get the microgrid online. I'll come out there with my rain suit on for a grand opening or a ribbon cutting.
Okay, it's a deal.
Okie dokie. So now let's move along to the president's report. So speaking of the microgrid project, there's a vendor called SiteLogic, and they do microgrid but mainly solar projects. And they were familiar with our project and a couple of the consultants. I sat down with a couple of the consultants for a good hour, and they picked my brain about the project, and they were just spoke very highly of how cutting edge we are with the project, and how they're planning those projects now. But the fact that we've had ours, in the works for quite a while, they were pretty impressed with that. I also would like to, at this time, kind of go over report some of the other things that I did. Let's see. So on Tuesday, I had a CSDA board meeting, and then we did the open session with the keynote speaker, Seth Madison. My first breakout session was public agencies' roles in forest management and keys to successful grant applications. The synopsis for that had given me a lot of anticipation for it, and it turned out that it was basically nothing but about fires and accessing money for doing burns, controlled burns. And they really didn't even talk about one of the most important things, and that's stems per acre at all during it. It was just mostly about controlled burns in that. Then the next breakout session I went to was Bank on It, the importance and impact of the Federal Reserve System to your district's investment program. Was a great insight in how the Federal Reserve controls the rates, the interest rates, and in how the Fed in that all interplays, and gave me a lot of good insight in how that all works. And then my afternoon one was pricing debt, interest rates, fees, and other variables. That was also a great one, and that was with the consultants that help us, Nikki Tallman and Albert Reyes and Rick Brandis did that one. It was kind of like the one you did, was specific to a funding, but it was a private placement for a leaseback, much like we did for the teen center, and went through the process for that. Learned some things about arbitrage that I didn't know before, and in another great, one. And then, on Wednesday, we had the keynote was, Matthew Lewin, I think that's how you pronounce his name, which was the guy from Pixar. Yeah, from Pixar, the great breakout session.
And
Oh, and he
Simpsons.
wrote for The Simpsons too.
Yeah.
Or he animated for The Simpsons.
When he was 18? When he was 18.
Fresh
he
out
went-
of, he dropped out of college to go work for The Simpsons.
Yeah.
So he was probably 18, 19
18,
years,
yeah,
yeah,
19.
something like that. I did breakout session called What to Expect from Your Finance Department, which was a very good one. And then, one of the ones in the afternoon that I went to, was reserves, what every board member, general manager, and finance staff and taxpayer should know, which was a very in-depth look at reserve policies and, a lot of things that we're doing, that are good, and maybe a few things that we should touch up on in ours. But, anyway, that's the extent of, the breakout sessions that I went to during the time, along with, with my Finance Corporation Board meeting, annual meeting. So that's all I had for president's reports. So board member comments, announcements, reports, and agenda item requests.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. I went to several different breakout sessions, thoroughly enjoyed the two keynote speakers down there. The breakout sessions that I attend focused mainly on board staff interactions, building public equity via public events and positive communications, mainly by using social media and print material. And I did focus some of it around the Brown Act, conflict of interest code, and other material that is going to be more pertinent as I become the board president next year.
Very good. Oh, and thank you for that link to that Brown Act publication. I really like that a lot. I've looked through it, and I'm going to actually save that and keep it.
So my turn?
Your turn.
My breakout sessions, well, I got, two of them were my ethics stuff, Joey, so I'm hoping they sent you the certificate. They would like.
Oh, you have to bring those back. They're not going to send those.
No, that's not what they said. Oh, okay, no, whatever. Anyway, if they don't send it, I'll do that. Also went to another one on corrupt board members having to resign. I can't remember the details, but that was a pretty interesting one. And then the last one that was pretty good for us was, I can't remember. Anyway, it's on Indian antiquities and how they impact projects. And I was curious because the water line going up to Shirai Heights, I wanted to know if that would impact. They said absolutely not. Pretty much the tribe's responsibility. And I was actually talking to somebody recently who was telling me the tribe now has a full-time archaeologist. Your money's worth when they dig that pipeline. So that's it for me.
yeah, and I was glad that Director Couch went to that. I was, we both, anyway, so it was good to hear that information. So kind of whittle through it here. The Pixar gentleman, actually, his son is living here, which is cool, but we also have a local family whose son has done work for a long time for Disney and Lucas, and for Pixar as well. He does the computer simulated lighting you know, all of this stuff is done, and then all of these guys that work on these tech guys, then have to put all of that lighting in on everything, the whole, it's quite an involved deal, actually. So, had a good visit with him about that. Let's see. I set in on the leading value-based organizational culture, which was interesting. And the best practices every board member should know, I set in on part of that. That was really good, and Scott gave a good recap of that. I wanted to go to the understanding CEQA requirements on the tribal cultural resources and AB 53, but I had a conflict. And was it Scott, did you go to that, or Dave? That's the one Dave went to. Yeah, and I appreciate that. That was good, and good to know, because it's becoming important that all of us that do things work together, comprehensively. So I just wanted to kind of be
Yeah,
more aware.
I was just gonna bring that up. We four talked about which breakout sessions that we were going to, so that we could collectively hit as many of them as
Maximize.
possible, so that we could take that back to bring the maximum benefit back to the district.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely divvied them up.
And I set in on the, I found this to be interesting, and I just looked at, I thought this is interesting. I'll set in on practicing emotional intelligence. And so the tenet of that, not to go into all that, but the right way to do that, and this board does that. This district does it completely. I mean, I was blown away. We could be the poster child for doing it right. And I was quite impressed with that. So, and then I set in on the LAFCO, and I know Scott did as well. And I'll just point out a couple quick things on the LAFCO deal, which I think we all know, but it's important to say. We had a state LAFCO big shot there, and clear as a bell. LAFCO, even this LAFCO here, LAFCO will not disband MCSD at all. No way, zero. Not going to happen. Now, that doesn't mean that the public might not lose their mind and vote to get rid of us. They could do that. So it's just important when this whole conversation about incorporation and all of that, that people are made pretty clear that there's some demarcations that they need to have in their brain on what they're looking at. Okay. So anyway, I was very happy to get that solidified. And then I went to one. I didn't go to the one you guys told me not to go to. Okay, but I went to one that was somewhat similar. Public events to build community equity. Oh, you did? Okay. Well, I sat in on the back of that. Well, I stood at the back of that. It was. And the reason it was good is because it again pointed out the kinds of things that we do, like our summer concert series and our skate park, and the way that we connect with our community is the right way to do it, not the political gotcha that goes on a lot of times with equity, which in my mind is the difference between meritocracy and mediocrity. So we don't do it in the mediocrity. We do it with meritocracy. And that may not be what's said all the time, but we're results oriented. You know, I mean, just look at the different things that we do in our day-to-day lives for the district. And I'll bring up Scott as a prime example. You get the right person to get into a job like the senior center and do the work and look at the benefit that you get. So anyway, and that's my 2 cents worth. It was a really good conference, and I want to thank all of the directors that went for looking out for me. I was, I did okay, but I was having some rough time at times, and you guys did a really yeoman's job of watching out for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the seminar on community equity, the presenter defined community equity as making the district benefit every ratepayer and every person within the boundaries of the district, no matter who they are, no matter what their politics are, no matter what their abilities are. And it was far from political, and it was very informative and very, I thought it was very, very fair, very, very fairly done.
Thank you.
I had something else too. and
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Since we went early, those of us who went on the Sea Otter tour were blessed with lots of sea otter action. And it was really wonderful.
And weather that was outrageously good. I didn't get to go, and I'm jealous.
So I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So entertain.